Hey guys, Tighter here, and today we're taking a look at the new patch for Company of Heroes 3 1.2.0 named Emerald Bear. Here's the new 4v4 map Monte Cavo. It is very similar in length and width to the Winter Line. In the northern area it is mountainous with a lot of elevation changes and cliffs to block pathfinding. The center of the map has this outpost looking area with quite a few buildings and also these lights. These lights can be destroyed over the course of the game, reducing the amount of lighting in the center of the map. The south of the map is a bit more flat and open, but still has quite a few sight blockers in the form of trees, which should make machine gun positioning quite challenging. This map has 8 strategic points compared to the usual 5 or 6. This will make it high in manpower income and cutoff opportunities. And here is the new 3v3 map Benghazi. Ignoring the water area in the south, it is 2.3 wide and 2.57 from base to base, which puts it on the larger side for 3v3. It has a desert and urban theme combined, and set at night but with full moon style lighting, so it's quite clear. This map has a high number of large and high durability buildings distributed around it, so you are going to need your anti-garrison tools such as flamethrowers and mortars to fight on it effectively. It only has 4 strategic points, so relatively low in manpower, but they can cut off a huge amount of resources, especially in the south. If you click up here, now this takes you to your in-game player profile. Here it gives you an overview of what you have in all 4 of the game modes, and you can also see this new faction icon looking way better than it used to be. The MS Paint style is now gone, looking spiffing. And also you can come into your individual statistics for each faction, each mode, if you want to see exactly where you're standing. The weekly and daily challenges have been made way easier overall, so now you shouldn't have to ruin games in order to try and achieve them. Vehicle movement and pathfinding has received a massive overhaul. It is easier to keep your vehicle's momentum going as you circle around an enemy or drive around a corner. The stutter when you gave a new movement order has been eliminated. On top of that, casemates such as the Stug and Marder have had their rotation rate reduced, making it far easier to flank them and keep them flanked. Road preference has been turned off. Previously, if I right-clicked in the blue circle area, the Sherman would turn on the spot, drive onto the road, then drive along the road since it gives a move speed bonus, then turn off the road and drive to the blue circle area. Whereas now the Sherman will drive in a straight line to the point, as you would expect. And if you want to get the move speed bonus from driving down roads, you will have to manually give the command to do so. Formation movement has been adjusted, so if you have a bunch of units selected and give them a movement order, they end up running into each other far less often and move around as a group much more smoothly. This is now a big improvement compared to moving a bunch of vehicles around in Code 2. Partial phase through has been added, so this should really help groups of vehicles get through choke points, but it's not quite at Code 2 levels of phase through. You don't seem to be able to go straight through the middle of the enemy's tank, and move speed while phasing seems to be slower. On top of this, a huge number of vehicles have had their movement stats adjusted to better fit with the new pathfinding system. And in return for getting their rotation rate nerfs, the casemates are gaining some barrel articulation. This means they can fire in a very narrow cone straight ahead of them, and they shouldn't have to rotate quite so often. Pre-patch, there used to be an issue where team weapons sometimes would not set up and fire upon an enemy that was in range of them. Instead, they would just track them as they moved around. But this has now been fixed. Also check out that new setup timer animation. Turn in place has been made more forgiving on team weapons. So if you try to give a small right-click drag command to your team weapon to change angle, it should be more responsive and result in less shuffling around. Infantry selection boxes have been enlarged, so now it should be easier to use left click to select a unit, reducing the need to use drag or box select, and also right click to target enemy units with things like machine guns, reducing the need for attack move commands. You can no longer select units that are retreating, such as by double left clicking a unit of the same type that is in the vicinity. This used to cause big issues when trying to give commands to groups of units. When you have a submenu open on a squad, such as building with engineers, when you select another unit of the same type, that submenu is no longer open. and even if you reselect the same unit, the submenus will disappear. This used to cause a lot of issues with retreat commands. And if you double tap F1, it will now move the camera to directly over your base. I believe you could do this with custom hotkeys before, but it's good that it has been added by default. There is a nice new animation when you complete capturing a territory point. The appearance of pings has been overhauled, and they stay on map for far longer, making it much easier to communicate with your teammates. Flare warnings for off-map abilities have been overhauled. Utility abilities, such as smoke drops and recon runs, no longer have a flare warning whatsoever. This will make smoke drops especially far more effective against set-up team weapons. Paradrop abilities will have green smoke, which is the same as before. Low threat abilities, such as the Captain's Vet 1 Mortar Barrage, will have yellow smoke. Orange flares go to medium level threats, such as strafes and mid-strength artillery. And red flares go to high threat abilities, such as loiters, big bombing runs, and heavy artillery strikes. This should make it easier to detect what's coming your way and decide how far you need to go to dodge it. Every single off-map artillery strike in the game has been looked over with the goal of improving consistency. This may come from reduced time between the flares appearing and the shells starting to land, improved accuracy on the first couple shells in a barrage, decreased cost to be more in line with its performance, and so on. And a lot of these abilities have had extra sound effects added to them at the start of the barrage. Again, making it easier to detect what is coming your way. And when these off-maps kill enemies in the fog of war, they now show XP kickers, reinforcing when your artillery is landing well, or showing you nothing when it's missing. Undetected friendly mines are now semi-transparent, and shooting at enemies over the top of mines should no longer cause them to explode for no reason. Decrewed team weapons have had their target size increased from as low as 0.5 up to 20, roughly the same as a medium tank. This should stop Jibber Jabber Jobber from losing Master League tournament games trying to kill them. The range at which cover bonuses are nullified, also called the point blank mechanic, has increased from 7 range up to 10. Given the high model counts of squads in this game, combined with their generally wider spacing, this might make sense, but I feel this is yet another thing devaluing the role of cover in Company of Heroes 3. Now on every faction, the Engineer's Hazard Removal Package, commonly referred to as a Minesweeper, provides a repair rate bonus, though unfortunately one model still repairs at the same rate as a full squad. Infantry-held projectile weapons, such as grenade launchers and bazookas, now have 33% more scatter when the squad is suppressed. This will make them significantly less likely to hit their target while under suppression. Previously, when using a flamethrower against the enemy, you could give a short move command then hit stop immediately. This would reset the reload on your flamethrower, allowing it to fire much more rapidly. But this bug has now been fixed in this patch. They fixed a big load of bugs in the Italian dynamic campaign, and the end of game match stats are now more accurate. They no longer contain friendly fire or environmental damage. I'll cover a few of the biggest balance changes with a more in-depth video coming out later on, starting out with the Easy 8. The damage cap on its main gun has been reduced from 4 models to 3 models per hit. The mid AoE value has been reduced, but the far AoE value has been slightly increased. Now it has roughly the same performance as the 76mm Sherman against infantry. Its benefits over the 76mm Sherman now are much higher penetration, more health, and 100% moving accuracy compared to 75%. The Vet 1 ability on the US Forces Mortar, Delayed Fuse Barrage, has been nerfed. It has worse AoE damage, slower rate of fire, and a longer fuse time before it explodes. SSF commandos in the Special Operations Battle Group have been buffed. Their population cost has gone down from 10 to 9. They have a slightly faster rate of fire on their bazookas, and they got a big increase in their health from 95 to 110. Moving on to Wehrmacht and starting out with the MP40 Grenadiers from the Breakthrough Battle Group. the MP40s have lost 15% of their mid-range lethality and 5% of their near-range lethality, making them a much less appealing option. The MG42 weapon team got off incredibly lightly. The suppression it deals to already suppressed units got reduced slightly, meaning it should no longer pin in just one burst, but I really think it needs more nerfs than that. The Stug had its machine gun upgrade nerfed at mid to far range, and its Vet 1 ability Point Blank Blast had its damage cap reduced from 4 models down to 3. Moving on to Brits, the 17 pounder has had a range increase of 10, going from 70 up to 80. The Infantry Section's population cost has gone down from 8 to 7, and their weapon upgrade, the Bren, has had a DPS buff. The training center is now available immediately. You don't have to do a 125 manpower side tech to get it. And apparently there was a bug with the infantry training upgrade. The received accuracy bonus it gave was not applying to reinforced models, so it's probably worth trying out this upgrade again. And the experience boost these upgrades give has also been increased. Moving on to Africa Corps, their Panzergrenadiers have had a buff. They have 10% more lethality mid and long range. Their LMG upgrade also has 10% more lethality, but they get 10% less bonus from combined arms. So it all evens out, but makes them less reliant on the combined arms bonus. The 8-Rut has had its Scatter Angle and Scatter Max both nerfed. This should decrease its lethality against infantry by quite a bit, though it currently seems to be bugged. Its best buddy, the Marder, has its long-range accuracy nerfed from .045 to .04. The Wehrmacht Marder also ended up getting the same nerf. And check out this sweet Ragdoll. They made changes so small explosions are more likely to cause Ragdolls. Guastatori have had their submachine guns moving burst length improved from 35% to 100%, making them much better at run and gun. Also, their reinforcement cost has finally come down from 40 manpower per model down to 35. So that's it for this video. I'll do a more in-depth breakdown of everything in future videos. Overall, pretty good patch, though you would hope it would be given that it's been roughly 3 months since the last proper patch. I don't really count the plain patch because it's so small. It probably actually made the game worse. So yeah, you'd hope so in 3 months that they'd get a lot done, and they've done a lot of good work here for sure. I still think more maps are needed. Until we've got like 6 to 8 maps in every single mode, it's just that needs to be like the absolute #1 priority. I think this is, the first 2 new maps we've got for multiplayer essentially. In 5 months the game's been out. So that needs to be absolutely #1. Get new maps in the game. On top of that, there were still quite a few balance outliers that I feel weren't really addressed in this, like those kind of free recon map hack style abilities that are on the 8-Rad for Wehrmacht or for Africa Corps and the Armored Support Battle Group. Those abilities need to have like a timer added to them or muni costs. They just completely shut down counter vehicle play against them because the enemy can always see you coming. But overall, I'm very excited to try out this new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And if you enjoyed this video, I hope you consider coming on board as a Patreon backer.